stars, dark matter, black holes, to ask questions about the nature of the universe and our place in it. I wanted to use the idea of aliens and other worlds to talk about otherness and difference in our own world. I don't think I write these books for any particular age or gender or any particular kind of reader at all. I want my books to be books that everybody can read and enjoy. So I put everything I have, I put everything I love into them, because I now believe the books we read when we're young are the most important books of all. They shape the way we see the world. They make us who we are, and they stay with us forever. Maybe that's why it takes me so long to write each book. Francis mentioned Valjean took 17 drafts. That's correct. Those 17 drafts took 5 years of my life. Phoenix was even worse. That took 7 years of my life. But all the endless work, all the endless writing and rewriting feels more than worthwhile when I see the impact that a book can really have on its readers. Valjean was lucky enough to be put on a reading list by this organisation mentioned by Teresa, the CLPE, the Centre for Literacy and Primary Education. This is an organisation, if you don't know, which believes very, very deeply in the power of reading for pleasure. It's the centre, really, of everything they do. I began to be invited into schools that were reading Valjean, and I saw for myself the impact of teachers sharing a whole book with their class. These schools were so different to the school I remember going to in the 1970s. A teacher who read us myths would not have stood out here. These schools had a vibrant culture of reading for pleasure, and it was obvious how much fun they were having, teachers and the kids alike. And it was obvious how much they were learning, all of them. I met kids who had never liked reading before, who thought books were not for them, but who somehow got it when they read Valjean, and now they couldn't stop. Something genuinely life-changing, something truly revolutionary was going on here. And my book appeared to be part of it. Something similar now appears to be happening with Phoenix. I'm seeing it being read alongside space topics in many schools, particularly years 5 and 6. It's incredible to visit a school and just see the excitement that a story can have on its readers and lead them into all sorts of different places. Writing stories of their own, of course, but also making artwork, researching astrophysics. I've seen classes go to the Space Centre to learn about actual supernovas, black holes and dark matter. I've seen schools holding discussions about refugee issues, because the alien characters in Phoenix are refugees. We start out meeting them in an alien refugee camp. So I've seen this book enable discussion of questions and issues in the real world. I've seen this happen in all sorts of schools, in areas that are the most deprived areas of all. There's absolutely no connection, it seems to me, between the socio-economic circumstances of the kids and what they can get out of a book. And I'm seeing online something amazing happening as well. An extraordinary community is developing around children's books. I'm seeing teachers, librarians, booksellers, readers, writers, illustrators, all lighting up my Twitter feed with their enthusiasm. Teresa mentioned Simon Smith, John Biddle, absolutely. Simon started an extraordinary thing called Fave Children's List. It's a hashtag gang. One day, every year, appears to be the 1st of August, people will tweet their favourite children's books all day long and get them trending. Children's books trend massively on that day. I've watched this kind of thing growing over the last few years. I find it so inspiring, so encouraging. It is, I think, another kind of reading revolution that is happening out there. More and more and more people are realising, understanding and knowing exactly the value of reading for pleasure, sharing children's books, loving the books themselves and loving the sharing. Because in that very simple act, just sharing a book you love, you are changing children's lives forever. And who's to say that changing lives in that way, child by child, book by book, might not, in fact, be changing the world? Who knows where the lifelong adventure of reading is going to take any given child? Sir Ken Robinson once observed that the young William Shakespeare was sitting at the back of somebody's English class as a kid. Who knows who might be in yours? There may well be kids who go on to write books of their own, as I did. There may be kids who take that skill of reading, the master skill that unlocks so many other skills, and apply it somewhere totally different. The scientists who find solutions to problems like climate change are reading children's books in somebody's classroom right now. Those kids are going to change the world. We can give them what they need to do that. Isn't that amazing? Just as long as we are clear about what really works, what will actually benefit them and help them. So the final thing I want to do today, before doing the questions and answers, is just look back at this lifelong series of experiences I've had as a reader and as a writer, and just see what conclusions we can draw from all this. I could just stop there, really, couldn't I? The first one is that every single life-changing book I can remember came to me not as work, but as fun. The big moments in my development as a reader and a writer all happened when I was reading for pleasure. Not a single one concerns learning the names of parts of speech, grammatical terms, or any kind of assessed work whatsoever. So I think reading for pleasure has to come top of any list of priorities for anyone who cares about education. We need a culture of reading for pleasure in every school. And that means we need to give teachers all the support, all the time and space and resources that they need to create that culture. I was very struck by what was said right at the beginning today. This idea that reading for pleasure might become part of standards and might become some... No! I think if you're doing that, you have not understood what the word pleasure means. Go back to first principles. The next thing I noticed, looking back on my experiences, is that I was incredibly lucky in having a context in which reading and books were so valued. My own family. I know, of course, this is not true of every family. I know all children have different circumstances at home, all come from different socio-economic backgrounds, but it turns out that reading for pleasure actually has the greatest single impact of any factor on life chances and educational attainment, outweighing even socio-economic backgrounds. Reading for pleasure has a bigger impact than any of that. So I think we have to support all families to develop reading habits at home. And I also think that schools and libraries can give all kids exactly what my family gave me. They can give them a place, like my grandfather's library, a physical setting in which books are important and possibly even magical objects. I've seen this so many times on school visits. Libraries have such an obvious, tangible impact. You can tell at once when a school has a library. The reading culture is always so rich and vibrant. That's why I believe school libraries and librarians should be required by law in all schools. And that's why I think we need public libraries and libraries too, to support and reinforce that work outside of the school. Are these ideas revolutionary? Personally, I think it's the idea that we can do without them that's truly surprising. I just want to stress the fact here that I'm talking about librarians as well as libraries. I'm talking about teachers as well as schools. Because in the end, ultimately, it's the people that really have the impact, that really make the difference. The people are the most important part of all this. But in this respect too, I think teachers and librarians can do for kids what my grandfather, my mother, my uncle all did for me. They can be the vital adults in a child's life who are genuinely and seriously excited about books, who love books, want to share that love with the kids. They can be the adults who model and inspire that love of reading, because it shines through everything they do, just naturally. Teachers and librarians who love children's literature, who are passionately engaged in it, and who keep up with it because they want to themselves, well, I've seen those extraordinary people time and again working wonders, changing people's lives forever, simply by sharing the love. I think those are the main things kids need to start their lifelong adventures as readers and writers. They need people, they need places, and they need cultures that enable and support reading for pleasure. It's that simple. If we can just give them that much, even the most reluctant readers might just amaze us and start doing it on their own. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we have got time. I'll speak till Graham turns up. I'll speak without it. But can you hear me? Yeah. Good. We have got time for a few questions for SF, and possibly after that there are any. But I know Teresa's kindly staying, so possibly I haven't asked her yet. But so, are there any questions anyone would like to ask SF? Yes.
Hello. I did a budget with my class last year and absolutely loved it. Didn't it. I just wondered, we were put on a kind of in discussions. I was on his journey and his kind of spiritual journey. I know nothing about martial arts, and so I kind of struggled with that element of the discussion. What did you base the way on? And is there anything I can direct my class towards this year when we're discussing it? Because I'm not equipped with martial arts knowledge. So.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for working with my book, first of all. You can't imagine how much that means. I have to say, martial arts is not something I've ever done in real life. Like most authors, I make everything up. I have watched a lot of martial arts movies. I've watched a lot of samurai films and kung fu films. I watched my own cat as he got into fights with other cats and was reminded of samurai films and kung fu films. So I guess I really just made it up. I think at the beginning with Varjak I was fairly haphazard about it. I didn't really think it through. But as I started to work on the book, and as my editor David Fickling kept saying, yeah, this is no good, you have to do more drafts, I began to try and really develop the way, the 7 skills, into something that might be a plausible and coherent system of martial arts for cats. Secret martial art for cats. There are 7 skills in the way, skills that enable a cat to live on its own, a free cat. There are skills for hunting, skills for fighting, but it's not all about fighting. There's a skill called slow time. There's a skill called shadow walking, where a cat can just merge with the shadows. The first skill a cat has to learn is called open mind. The very last one is called trust yourself. So yeah, there's some fighting, obviously, and I do love a good fight scene and a training scene, as I mentioned. So I put as much of that into it as possible. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought the really interesting stuff here is exactly what you're saying. It's that spiritual or mental or emotional journey that the character is taking. So I guess I tried to make the martial art reflect that in some way. So yeah, that's how the thing developed. As to what you can do with it, I'm not really sure. I can't direct you to any useful martial arts resources. I have seen in schools amazing work done in drama, where they use all kinds of physical movement-based activities, which are sort of built around the idea of cats and martial art. They sort of put those things together to do these amazing things. I've seen school plays of Varjak, which I find immensely moving.
That one online was amazing.
Did you?
Yeah, we did.
So yeah, I mean, I think and that's a very good way, again, of sort of making the things physical. But there are so many different kinds of applications. I've seen projects done on ancient Mesopotamia, because Varjak learns in his dreams in ancient Mesopotamia how to do this secret martial art. And kids often want to know, well, what is this Mesopotamia thing? So they start doing a bit of research into it. They discover it's the ancient name of the country we now call Iraq, where things like writing began. And, it's amazing to see projects that have been done like that. Somebody tweeted the other day, somebody who I think is now 17 years old, the tweet just went, teacher, Mesopotamia, dash, and then me, oh, the place in Varjak, exclamation mark. Like, this kid knows what Mesopotamia is, has discovered it because they read Varjak. So that, I just thought that was amazing. That there are so many things you could potentially do with it. So I know the martial arts is something people get excited about, but you could take it in almost any direction, I think. So if you do more work with it, I would love to see. Tweet me pictures or...
Do you do school visits
I do school visits. Yes, I love doing school visits. I do a lot of them. So either tweet me.
You're booked, Seth.
Pardon me?
I think you're booked.
I'm booked. Great. Okay. I have an author visits page on my website. Just leave me a message there if you like. Leave an email address so I can reply to you, or just tweet me. I'm on Twitter more than I should be. Yeah, I love, as I say, I love doing school visits.
We've got a question down here, just conscious of the other questions.
Yes.
And I just wanted to say that I agree with Teresa and Saeed that we want a relaxed environment where children are not asked to predict, answer, summarise questions and so on, and time for independent reading and reading aloud to children, recommending good books, librarians and all of that. And I don't like levelled books. I think children should be able to choose when they can read, as soon as they can read books. And this is really for both of you, but particularly Teresa at the moment, because I understand that she thinks the phonics check is insulting by asking children to read nonsense words and that it should be stopped. But in my experience, children who struggle to read words, familiar and unfamiliar words, don't like reading, and the phonics check is a simple check that children can read words easily. I think the idea that they're insulted by it is putting adult ideas onto children, and the nonsense words are just for assessment. So the phonics check is about making sure children can read words easily, so they're free to enjoy reading without struggling. And you were saying, Mr. Say, that you learn to read by osmosis. Well, the phonics check's helping to make sure that every child can read your book. It's helping to avoid that big divide between the children who can read words easily and those who can't. So my question, why are some people who want children to read for pleasure and enjoy reading and get all those benefits that people have talked